The 1970s, I would argue the pinnacle of music. You know what else was great about the 1970s? Bullpen carts. If you weren't around in the 1970s, you missed the real heyday for these motorized works of art. They weren't invented in the 70s, just perfected. Paul Lucas seems to be the definitive source of information on the internet for this topic. There is a real lack of documentation on this subject. Even the National Baseball Hall of Fame does not have a significant account of bullpen cart chronology. Mr. Lucas wrote that the first use at the major league level was by the Indians in 1950 with a card that they called the Little Red Auto. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any images or archived newspaper articles that mentioned the Little Red Auto. Perhaps the name just isn't unique enough for me to be able to sift through all of the noise. In any event, after Cleveland, the next occurrence of a bullpen car was one used by the Chicago White Sox in 1951. It was introduced in a series versus the New York Yankees. The event was significant enough to make the international press, and this image was printed in newspapers across the country. It shows the Yankees dugout having fun and taunting the relief pitcher riding shotgun on his way to the mound. The New York press ridiculed the White Sox over the use of the bullpen car. Even so, according to the White Sox team historian, before the series was over, Yankees manager Casey Stengel commissioned a black Cadillac from a Chicago South Side funeral home for his pitchers. The next significant milestone in bullpen transportation occurred a few years later in 1959. The Milwaukee Braves introduced the first non-automobile with the introduction of a Harley-Davidson Topper scooter fitted with a custom sidecar on June 23, 1959. This is also significant in motorcycle history. The Harley-Davidson Topper was the only scooter model that Harley ever built. They manufactured the Topper from 1960 to 65, so I have to assume that this was one of the first to roll out of the factory. It's possible that Harley was using it to promote the new scooter. The Harley-Davidson assembly plant was right there in Milwaukee. You can see here the nice little chauffeur in his full suit with bow tie and cap. Very professional. Here's a photo from 1965 showing the Milwaukee Braves scooter having now evolved into something much closer to the golf cart form that we would see in the 1970s. This particular photo hurts my soul to see. Legendary left-hander Warren Spahn played 20 years with the Braves before spending his final season split between the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants. Here he is in his final appearance in Milwaukee, wearing the wrong uniform. As much as I love the Braves, I do have to credit the Mets for what I consider the apex of bullpen cart design. In 1967, they introduced the electric-powered Presidente cart. By the early 1970s, this form of bullpen cart was all the rage. It even crossed over to the NFL. Here's an image from the 1971 World Series. Both teams apparently brought their bullpen carts. Let's take a look at some of the others from the 1970s. Kansas City Royals, the Astros, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers. Daring to be different, in 1972, the Yankees began using a pinstriped Datsun to bring pitchers in from the bullpen. The Datsun was provided by the automaker, one of the team's sponsors. Then in 1976, the Yankees ditched the Datsun in favor of a Toyota Celica. Goose Gossage, who signed with the Yankees in December of 1977, had entered games in cap carts before, but never a car. His first rides in that Celica were a disaster. Goose was pretty much awful that first week of the 1978 season, giving up walk-off hits in his first two appearances. New York fans were furious. So when the pinstripe Celica pulled through the Yankee Stadium bullpen gates, Gossage braced himself in the passenger seat as cups of beer and hot dogs peppered the car.
Well, yeah, we used to have that little, they used to sponsor the Yankees, and was a Toyota pinstriped, Yankee pinstripes, and the doors in center field used to open up from the bullpen and drive us in. And, through that really tough stretch, when I joined the Yankees for the first couple of months, I really struggled. And I had put so much pressure on myself that, I lost a ball game every way conceivable. And when that car would come in, the grounds crew would fight over who was going to bring me in, because nobody wanted to bring me in. It was a dangerous job. And when it came around the warning track, whatever people were eating, they were throwing on that car. So we had to turn the windshield wipers on to see where the hell we were going. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun coming in that car.
I love it. Of course, Goose would turn it around and save 27 games that year. He was an all-star that year and finished 5th in Cy Young voting. In 1980, you could buy a 1979 Celica bullpen car directly from the Yankees' official team catalog. The list price, $8,349.75. In 1981, the White Sox also went with a car. Their model of choice, a Chrysler LeBaron. No word on whether the car had rich Corinthian leather. Chicago White Sox historian Josh Cohen said, quote, "No one ever used it, because who wants to ride in a LeBaron? If the pitcher opted out of the ride, the LeBaron had to do a full lap along the warning track while the pitching change took place. The beer shower that LeBaron received had to be seen to be believed. Full $3.50 cups came raining out of the upper deck. After about a month of this, they decided to leave the LeBaron on the center field warning track during the pitching change. And the next year, it was gone forever." The following year, in 1982, Seattle went completely off the rails and introduced the tugboat. It got off to a rocky start on opening day when someone stole the keys during pregame festivities, leaving the tugboat stranded on the left field line, delaying the start of the game. Some Mariners pitchers outright refused to ride in the tugboat. If a reliever refused, fans remember the boat following behind the pitcher as he made his way to the mound. The boat would circle around the field and back into the bullpen. The carts eventually fell out of favor as players began to outright refuse to ride in them. The end of bullpen carts in MLB appeared to be 1995 when Milwaukee retired their bullpen motorcycle. But it wasn't the end. With an increased focus on speeding up the pace of play, MLB had a committee discuss bringing back the bullpen carts in 2015. The Arizona Diamondbacks announced that they would introduce their first bullpen car prior to the 2018 season. And while the car was available on opening day, the first reliever to actually make use of it was Colin McHugh in May of 2018.
Well, here it is. Mark it down. Great moments in D-backs history. Astros right-hander Colin McHugh becomes the first player ever to use the D-backs bullpen cart in a regular season game. We've got one in the books.
How about that?
Good for him. Why walk when you can ride?
Well, either good for him or he's the laziest pitcher in the major leagues.
We'll see how this goes. On in relief of Charlie Morton to start the 6th inning.
The Detroit Tigers were the second team to reintroduce a bullpen cart. On April 13th, 2018, this awesome-looking cart that resembles a classic hot rod made its debut.
Well, I got out to the mound and Gardy and Miggy and Machi are giggling at me. So it was hard enough to just try to lock in that situation. But I said I would never take it, and then I blew my foot out, and it is what it is. I just got to, save the foot a little bit here, and I took it in. It was awkward. It was an awkward experience.
And the Twins bring in a lefty in Stephen Okert, and heck, he's taking the bullpen carts. Glenn Perkins is so jealous right now. Wow, so jealous of Stephen Okert because Stephen took the ride from the bullpen cart. A little tip.
I wonder if he gave him 5 stars.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love it. I wish the Braves would bring one back. They certainly could have used it when we had Kenley Jansen as a closer. That guy took forever to get to the mound. That's it. Thanks for your time. Take care.